Welcome back to Primary Source China Investment. This week we're on show K6 and we're talking about trade and specifically Australian-China trade. And the punchline here is tariffs don't work. And we're going to get into it. Australia-China trade has come full circle. We covered this a lot on the channel, and the proverbial canary in the coal mine was Australia. Recall Beijing's reaction when Australia demanded tough inquiries into the origins of COVID. China did what China does, and it retaliated with strict trade embargoes, tariffs, whatever you want to call them. Oh, we lost the paperwork kind of stuff. And it was everything. And it hit Australia hard. Wine, barley, cotton, timber, all of these agricultural products, red meat, sort of pork and beef, even lobsters, and then on to iron ore, education, and tourism. All of these industries took hard hits because in a lot of those cases, China was the biggest market for those products. But the Australians did something unexpected. They decided to find other markets. When you're an entrepreneur and your largest customer backs out, you innovate or die. And that's what Australian companies did. Australian wine companies, they went to other markets in Europe. They went to the US, they went to other Southeast Asian countries. Did some agricultural and commodity producers suffer? Absolutely. Did they find new markets? Also, yes, and often at higher prices. Finally, did overall exports to China decrease? That's the question. And the answer is no. Exports have eclipsed 2019 levels. So what we have here is a failure to understand the dynamics of globalization. When one customer bails out or one customer creates tariffs, exporters are going to find new markets. That happened with the United States, which is ironic. When Trump introduced trade tariffs, trade from China to the US certainly went down. Absolutely. And the trade deficit between China and the US is really decreased. But that doesn't mean exports from China in general decreased. You can see the charts. What does it mean, Peng Guo? What's the answer here? What does it all mean?
I think personally from the China Foreign Minister Wang Yi, so he said the relationship back to normal on March 20th this year. So that really means after a couple of years difficulty, and China, I think we are back to normal right now. So what happened? If just really compare the two governments, the previous government and the current government. So this doesn't mean it will stop Australia companies to explore other market. Obviously, you can explore any market you want, but no matter what happened, if the relationship get hurt, and you will lose just the pie in the China market. So
yeah, that's the complacency, right? You can't be complacent.
Yeah, someone try to make this look like a victory. Oh, okay, we lose this pie. Okay, we win in other market. That doesn't make sense to them. So nobody stop you win in other market. It's definitely the wrong concept to make the failure as a victory. The problem is nobody pay for this price except those Australia companies.
Well, the Chinese consumer does pay too, right? So the Chinese consumer, for that period,
and they probably have the option to change because
there's always a substitute. There's always a substitute. I mean, similarly, as if I'm a wine producer or a lobster farmer in Australia, I have to sell my product, and if China's going to implement massive tariffs or they're going to hold things at the port, I have to find other markets, and that's just the nature of business. So there's this political element to it that it's very difficult for entrepreneurs, businesses to navigate, but navigate they must. And you see this in the real trade data. Global trade is still increasing. It's not decreasing. So just because your market shuts down, or US imposes some tariff, or China imposes some tariff, whatever the case may be, you have to react to that. And the reaction is
also a good example. Like the two countries never have historical problems before, but just because of some of these political reason, and it also could make the big trouble. That means a few people can make a big trouble for the economy in very short term. So, and the consequence is really big.
It looks like what Australia is trying to do is something that China does, which is align their trade with national security, right? During this period from 21 to 23, Australia signed new trade agreements with India, passed laws to prohibit Chinese interference in local elections, and increase security where Chinese firms look to acquire Australian businesses. So they have a very specific ideology, which is to link trade with national security interests. And this is something that the EU and the US are waking up to. China already does that, has already done that, has been doing that. What does that mean? That probably means more of this kind of friction with trade. And that also means that companies and entrepreneurs have to figure out, markets that are open and ready to trade with them, even if some of the larger ones put up tariffs on both sides.
Yeah, that's definitely like the international competition. As long as one country is speak highly about the national security, everybody raise their hands. Yes, everything is about the security. Anything is related to the security. Like the one big companies in China, they ban the US apps, and US companies ban the China apps. And then right now they say, okay, both you can use the apps each other.
Yeah, I don't see China allowing Facebook or Google anytime soon, based on that. But all of these apps are all banned in China, so I don't see China opening up for those companies anytime soon. And those are the biggest companies on the planet in some cases. So those companies have to navigate. I mean, just look at if you make a garden variety consumer product and put it on Amazon, and Amazon is your biggest distributor. Well, if it's a successful product, Amazon will just replicate your product and put you out of business. Forget the politics of it. It is a lesson in how to do business. You can't fully depend on one market. That's just the answer. And even Apple is figuring this out. It's like, oh, wait a minute. If they put restrictions on Apple phones are whatever, 25% of the global sales. That's even too much. So, big companies have to learn to navigate as well.
Yeah, that I totally agree. This is really like the natural way to do it. And while you face the one client or one supplier, yeah, I agree. You definitely need to diversify.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
and
it really means you work for them.
and the final point is this sort of economic coercion doesn't work. That what started this, and you're right to point out that Australia had a change in political leader, it had an election, and the asking about the origins of COVID really infuriated China because China felt that they were being transparent. Whether you agree with that or not is a totally different issue, but that was the initial impetus for a lot of these trade tariffs and a lot of the holding things up at the port, et cetera. But that kind of coercion doesn't work because wine manufacturers and beef producers, they're going to find another market for their product. So the coercion didn't work, the tariffs didn't work, and now we're sort of full circle, and that's where we started with this show this week. So we're going to leave it there. Thanks for tuning in again for show K6, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.